Hey guys, it's 007 here, and today we're going to talk about the patch 1.91 assessment, basically over the patch that was done about two and a half weeks now, I'd say. And we're basically just going to do a quick overview of it and all that. I know I haven't been really doing too many videos lately, and that's due to a couple of reasons, and it's mainly because I took a job during the summer, so obviously work got onto that whole boat and everything. Basically, there was a lot of that going on. I pretty much was working nearly every day of the week, and it was a new experience for me, and it kind of gives you the respect for taking on employment. The big thing I'd like to say is YouTube, or anything really online that I do, isn't really for money. I don't do this because I want to make money off of it one day. That might be a neat option later on, but it's not my final intention. I really, do this as an extension of a forum to allow me to communicate my opinion and my perspective, and I don't know, try and help out people as best I can. That's really all I really do with this. Or show cool content. That's always cool too. But really, this is not my job. This is a hobby. So that's basically what I'm going to treat it as. Any work will likely be considered more to my major, which is mechanical engineering, and I'm going to school for that currently. So that's another reason why I'm so busy. Is lately it's been the week has been me doing school, and then the weekends has been doing homework / doing the job. Although we should be getting some time to free up here in the next couple of weeks, because obviously what I do for work is currently being a summer job kind of thing. It's more prevalent in the summer, obviously. So that's basically what's been going on. That's basically the reason why I haven't really been doing much. So appreciate everyone. That's excellent to have you on board and everything. I really appreciate the things you guys do. It really is helpful. So without further ado, let's get into this. So patch 1.91, I gotta say, before we talk about it, leading into patch 1.91 was really interesting. I had the pleasure of getting on the test server for the limited time that it was up stuff, so I don't get any of that red tape stuff. I don't get past that. I gotta basically play what's available to the player, so that's what's basically up for me. But I was able to test fly the Phantom and the MiG-21 during the patch, or the dev server patch, I should clarify. Both vehicles I found interesting. I didn't really find them overly great, and it wasn't really fair to make an assessment on them, as the flight models were still being determined and a lot of the other weapon systems were still yet to be added. That's kind of the hesitation I have when it comes to talking about pre-patch stuff. It's just, sometimes it just becomes too inaccurate by the time it gets to the live server. And even after the live server, 1 or 2 weeks later, I mean, F4C Phantom has stuff that, wasn't even intended to be on it before or when it hit the main server. But basically, that's the reason why I try and avoid that stuff. I really look for the final conclusion of stuff more than anything else. But, yeah. Jumping into it. Basically, what we saw, breaking it down into major parts. We'll talk about the biggest thing first, which is obviously China being added to the game. Basically, I managed to get into the closed beta for this thing because I got the tester stars, so I'm not paying to win into this branch at all, or this nation, I should say. That's not my philosophy at all with regards to China. I will say China, hands down at this point, I consider probably the best nation in the game. And it's not for what they have at the end of the tree that's so special that makes them so great, although it is a very good weapon. It's the overall picture that they get all these vehicles that were so good. And the reason for that is, historically, it makes sense. China was an acquisition nation. They weren't a homegrown nation. They were, we'll take what we can get from the battlefield or what we can get from a supplier, and we'll use it in war. Because they had the money, they had the resources to buy this stuff. And they had the allies and the willing, suppliers that were willing to step in and provide them the means of equipment that they were interested in. And obviously you can see that through the entire tech tree. I think it's safe to say that there's not a single original weapon China has probably in the entire tech tree. You might argue the Type 65, but I can't really follow through with that. It just, it's too familiar of a chassis, you know. Any vehicle in here, I can easily point out which nation it was supposed to be originated from. You know, you could probably make the argument for the Type 62, because that is probably not a major vehicle that it was derived from. I mean, it looks awfully familiar to a T-54, let's be honest, but the point is, this is nothing unexpected. I think we can completely accept that this was totally what China was going to be. Was not the World of Tanks homegrown nation that you would expect, but a nation that's lived off of its suppliers. Moving past China, I'd like to talk about the aviation, which is probably the other major aspect that was talked about in this game. Obviously, F4 Phantom was introduced. Very, very nice that we had that added and all that. I will likely do a larger video on the F4 Phantom. To the fullest extent, I'd like to say that I really enjoy this plane. It is so much fun to fly. If you ever experienced it, like, when I first flew it, it was a little weird. I didn't like it at first because of how everything just lined up for it. Stock and just the way teams didn't really quite recognize how to fly the plane. It was just really uncomfortable to fly it, but now you can dominate in a game if you have a good Phantom pilot, and there's been a couple good games that I've had, and I might even show some of them later on if I have the time/interest of editing them to a posture that would be acceptable for viewing. Because really, this plane is just so incredible how it can control the dogfight. And I gotta say, this is probably the coolest plane to watch in a replay system, hands down. This thing just looks like an F4 Phantom in real life in the replay system. You just look like hauling ass, running up to go spank someone out of the sky. It's so neat to watch this thing fly. Obviously, the other plane that was introduced at rank 7, or sorry, not rank 7, we're not there yet. At rank 6, as a continuation for the Soviet Union, was obviously their MiG-21, which I have acquired here. This plane I was excited for, although I will say, for the record, I was more interested in the MiG-21 that didn't do this, and the MiG-21 that did this, with reference to its canopy and its empennage, or sorry, not empennage, but it's more like the fuselage. I didn't really expect it to have the slight taper and then return back to the vertical stabilizer. I consider this MiG kind of like a ugly duck when it comes to what the MiG-21 series is. But I will say it is neat to have it. It is an interesting plane. When it first released, this patch, it was really, really good plane because it had the acceleration and the performance to sit there and do a lot of defensive maneuvers really well. The Phantom's really a brick at it. So I think they did a really good job modeling the aircraft and their flight performances. It's interesting to fly them. I will say that. Like I said, I'll plan on doing a full video. I'll probably do like the MiG-19 and the F-100, or I'll talk about the MiG-21 and the F-4 Phantom. Basically combine them in their assessment. Additionally, another rank 6 aircraft that is a sibling of the MiG-21 that was added to the game, being the J-7-2, being basically the better MiG-21 in the case of better ammo. And I guess apparently it has better acceleration or performance. Don't quote me on that, I just heard it, but basically that's the kind of stuff that we're really looking at as another vehicle to be on the top of the food chain, so to say. And that's basically really all I can say for the new aircraft added. Obviously, MiG-19 has been ravaging, or it was ravaging at least. I haven't really grown too much of a fear, or I haven't continued my fear of MiG-19s as of late. People were really freaking out about it for a while, and even I was saying, like, this is a little interesting, but I think over time you might see the MiG-19 lose its luster by it getting its fuel load nerfed and its performance relative to flying at sea level and afterburner, because really that aircraft just doesn't have the fuel to do what it's been doing in matches at the altitudes, you know, accordingly. But I do like the combat that you get. The MiG-19 is a very big threat, even though it is considered, you know, an earlier version that was the predecessor for the MiG-21. Overall, I do really enjoy what they did. I'm trying to think what else there is really to talk about. I mean, Britain, I think, had some of the best planes added to their nation, even though they weren't really high-tier planes. They were excellent for the job that they did. And I'm still getting them. I'm not really pushing them because obviously there's other stuff to push right now on all kinds of elements, you know, in the game. Swift F1 and the Swift F7, outstanding aircraft. They have done incredible performance, and I think what will be unique is with the F1, you get the plane that really the Hawker Hunter F6 can't be. And for all the greatness that the F6 brings to the table, it comes with the caveat that it's at 9.7, which is good for the high-tier vehicles, but vehicles like the range of the Chieftains, like the Mark III and the Mark 5/Mark 10, they really need a aircraft that's more suitable to performing that aerial defense, you know, air superiority / ground attack, but also being at the proper battle rating. That's a key factor right there, and the Swift F1 really nails that out of the park. Good guns, good flight performance, and it has a good payload for ground attack. So I think the Swift F1 was actually a really good plane for Britain. It's really kind of overlooked, I think, in my opinion. I'll probably say that a million times. But yeah, that's pretty much all I could say for Britain. I do say the F6 Hunter has been a lot more lethal as they buffed its SRAMs. Don't have the SRAMs as of yet, but I have seen them firsthand what they can do. They are definitely capable missiles, and I do like the caveat that they live with as being 1 kilometer away / the acceleration relative to the distance covered. Usually the missiles, you gotta just stay in a good ballpark away from the F6 and you won't be touched by the missiles. And that's going to lead to some interesting tactics, and fortunately, really the only time you're going to get down by a hunter is when you're being careless. So, I'm really, really glad to see that F6 has gotten a top-tier competitive reputation again. Trying to think what else there is. Obviously, they added a new premium for France in the regards of helicopters. They did this also for Germany. We'll take a look at those. These helicopters will definitely better the circumstances for the nations. Basically, the Tiger will be a good rank 7 helicopter for providing the capabilities necessary to support the French sector. It was looking a little lackluster for France, I will say. Kind of a similar case for Russia. I don't know if they did it dispatch or a little bit before, but they gave the Mi-35 its air-to-air missiles, which, in all opinion, it really needed. Because it made the Mi-24s look a little bit more suitable for ground forces, because it could provide the anti-air role while still being a ground attack platform. Mi-35 is probably the scariest helicopter you'll see in the Russian tech tree at this point, which is the way it should be, considering where it is. But yeah, the Tiger helicopter, it's a really strong helicopter. I say it's probably the best premium in the game. I'd probably get it right now if I just didn't care. Or if I did care, sorry. It's probably the most agile helicopter in the game. I don't know how fast it really is. That's pretty fast, actually, 300 kilometers an hour. So yeah, I'd recommend it if you get it. Only issue I have with getting a French helicopter is, you know, for a lot of people, there's got to be a lot of development in either the aviation / army side of the fence, and not a lot of people really push France. It's a really hard nation to get started on, ranks 1 to 2. But still nice though that they got a helicopter. That's really going to help them support. Excuse me. It's really going to help them out with regards to having a helicopter like that to support their operations. Moving on to Britain. Britain received their helicopter line finally. Although I kind of have to say it kind of sounds like the same song, just in a different singer. The helicopters for Britain are kind of like the ground forces. You know, they're good, but they're not great compared to what else is on the field. I think the power of the Scout and the Wasp is extremely lacking when it comes to the engagements that occur. And I'm really, really not interested in the whole, what is it? Not really interested in having to deal with helicopters that can outclimb me kind of thing. The American helicopters, in my opinion, are way better. Yeah, these things get ATGM stock and all that, but honestly, I like a helicopter that has the power platform and the extended capabilities. Not to say these helicopters are bad, I just don't think they are up to par relative to everyone else. Moving beyond that, let's see what else we got. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else. Besides the Army, you know, helicopters and aviation, I'm trying to think. Like I said, the Mi-35 got its air-to-airs, finally. Or I should just point out here. 9M39s. So basically, the missile system. Very good, like I said. Very good for them to get that. For Army, I'd probably talk about the Saddam. I think from a complete perspective of discussing what the Saddam brings to the game, I think is completely beneficial. And in most cases, people say the Saddam is a better missile system, or it's a worse missile system. I'm kind of on the worse missile system, but I think it's better for the game as a whole. And I say that because the Mistral operates on a infrared guidance system for the missiles, not the optics from the ground-based targeting system. But the Saddam Mistral really is what the SAM should be in this game, at this BR, in my opinion. 10.0, we shouldn't really be seeing anything that's like the Tunguska/ADAT system. ADATs and stuff is going to swat stuff out of the sky. I've been operating the ADATs as of lately. I got it a couple days ago, and it just dominates. I'm probably going to pull up some video content of just how ridiculous the ADATs is. Not to say the ADATs should get removed, I just think the BR should be reworked and see that vehicles like the Leopard 2A5, the M1A1, these vehicles need to be out of the 10.0 BR. They should be up at 11.0 at least. It doesn't make any sense that a 9.0 vehicle like the XM1, or there's some other 9.0 vehicles like the, I think they made the Rise. The Rise is 8.7. You know, there's some vehicles that have escaped it, but there are other vehicles. Really, we could see an overall tech tree shift, in my opinion, that could really benefit the players, benefit the tanks. The planes will definitely make more sense if we have the planes right where they are still, but shift the tanks and the helicopters. I think the helicopters need to get spread out a little bit more, make the matches a little bit nicer when it comes to helicopter during confrontation, and probably better conveniences for them in ground forces matches. But enough dwelling on that. I think the other thing to talk about between the helicopters and the tanks, though, is the new optics that they've gotten. They have the ability for night vision devices. Yeah, it's an interesting step, I have to say. Yes, it's kind of interesting that, or not interesting, it's good to see that they've given vehicles the proper equipment that they have. Once again, it runs into that whole issue of, hey, 10.0, it really, or at the BR, having a system that carries thermals is a completely different step. It's almost like it takes the vehicle up in 1.0 in BR. It's that radical of a capability for the vehicle. I mean, I can take this out on a test drive. It's nuts. And I do like the effort they're going through to try and diversify and make night battles more appealing, but the issue that I think I'm seeing is kind of like the Partisan FPE thing, where it's like, oh my god, you're going to suffer if you don't have this system. You know, like I said, it's good to see that they're doing this stuff, but then again, it's creating new issues. And I do like the different things you can do, like inverting the infrared thermal, you know, sensor to get a better view of targets. You know, that's very good that they can, you know, look at doing that. But going back off of that, I wish that they would look in doing something like that for helicopters, because it's kind of annoying that I'll look through. I mean, for all I know, Sonar helicopters might have it, but I have no thermal capability within my helicopters. Like, yes, I have the night vision. You know, I can look around like with my my Huey, but that's all I can basically do. So, yeah, I think there's a little bit more work that needs to go into night vision devices as they fit into the game. I think they've been doing some work. I mean, even today, I looked at it, you know, they got an update, and I was listening to a stream, and they're talking about the fact that Leopard 2K was getting its thermals removed. They're adding thermals to different vehicles, taking it off of vehicles. That's good to see that they're trying to look at the accuracies of these vehicles. I would like to see the capability leased out to other vehicles. Supposedly, I was told that there was a night vision capability that the MiG-21, the model that's in the game had in real life, but I haven't seen or anyone really confirm that, so I'm not going to stand on that, but I've heard it going around, so to speak. Trying to think what else. Oh yeah, by the way, just a little quick thing with the Chinese tech tree. I think we should probably call the Chinese tech tree the island of, like, I want to say misfit toys, but it's like the island of lost premium, or lost rarity vehicles. Because, I mean, this nation is made up of rare vehicles. I mean, M8 Greyhound, what was the other one? Type 65, Type 62. You know, it's just hilarious that they have all this stuff, you know, going in. I'm sure there's other vehicles I haven't really mentioned or talked about, but it's just, I think it's funny to see that they've done that. Trying to think of anything else. Let's talk about Naval quick, and then we'll dash back to the overview and talk about the negatives of the patch as a whole. So obviously they added a new class of ships, or another, not class, but they've added another generation of warship to the game. We have the Brooklyn class for the United States, a lot bigger, a lot scarier. They've gone to Germany. They've probably got one of the best ships in the game, although I haven't really seen too much on these ships. I know that they're running around. Admiral Hipper class was a very, very good one. Let's see what else we got. I know Russia got a really scary one. Shaparev has been a real... or Shapayev, I guess. Has been a real terrifying ship, as I've been hearing. Like I said, these ships are really just progressing on and on. I do plan, eventually, to try and do a... what would you say? Oh, this kind of looks like HMS Tiger a little bit. I do plan to do a Naval Forces assessment. I even talked about doing a helicopter reassessment as of late for what's been basically being added to the game. But yeah, these ships, I've never heard anything good for Britain as of late for the Southampton class. I know Japan definitely got the Mogami, which is definitely a ship that... it's going to be nuts when they get really, really up into the battleships. Like, even the early battleships will be interesting to see. It's weird to see how the tech tree is conforming, and that's kind of the reason why I've been holding off the whole Naval Forces assessment. It's just, everything's still taking shape. You know, it's kind of like trying to make a conclusion on someone that's not even born yet. They're still developing. You won't know until they finally, you know, make their presence known. So, yeah. A lot of good stuff there. I see they've been adding other stuff later on and all that. They're not really major mentions really to talk about. I'm trying to think of really anything else besides that. I think we can step probably into the negatives aspect of the game that I've been seeing as of late in the tech tree. One thing is, like I said, thermals. Thermals have been really a game changer in the fact that the capability of a vehicle has been drastically changed with that capability. It is a very enticing capability that people want, and that's good for Gaijin because they'll get people to buy it, but it's annoying to the player base because they have to either grind for it, and it can be inconvenient whether or not they get a night battle or not, and the investment's not exactly seen through. So that's one thing for that. One thing I'll other say, I haven't really experienced it personally, but I have seen people suffering with the ability to play the game. And I mean this technically, not like actually just mentally losing their mind. I have seen the ground forces, or not ground forces, there's a lot of audio issues, some visual issues, and I've even seen the plain game struggling to work. It's been pretty frustrating to see all that kind of stuff going on, but yeah, that's been basically what's been going on. Trying to think what else there is with regards to that. Moving on towards the aircraft, I'd like to talk about the high tier situation with the higher tier aircraft. I don't know what they've done with the game with regards to, you know, the server handling all of this new high-speed stuff going on and all that, because people have been punching through Mach like it's been nothing. And every time I go near Mach or really beyond Mach, there's this glitch that's really annoying, and I'm sure I could pull a clip of it up and put into the video. But it's just so stupid, this whole glitch where it starts teleporting your plane closer and closer to the ground. I hope they fix that, because that's a very annoying issue. Low-level flying / gunning and all that, very frustrating to do when you have your plane teleporting up and down. And I know I'm not the only one that's had it. I've seen Fly Daily had it in a video, and I've heard other people talking about the fact that they have to suffer from the teleporting, thing. It's really frustrating when you're trying to play the aircraft at high speed, low altitude, and the server can't even tell you where you are. That's annoying there. I'm trying to think of what else there is negative-wise. Also, just a quick note, to put in there with the entirety of this video. I would like to note one thing as another negative comment for the Chinese tech tree. This might be small scale and really not really a major thing to a lot of people and all that, but I think it is a very major thing to me. Basically, if you had followed the lead up to the patch and all that, obviously looking at the test server versus this server, one of the big things that they changed at the request of the Chinese, I don't know if it was the government or the player base or any of their regional managers, but basically what would happen is all of the aircraft that were related in being more of the nationalist Chinese origins in the game were effectively dismissed of their nationalist Chinese flag / Taiwanese, emblem. Or, not emblem, but, flag that represents their thing. Obviously, in the corner up there, I can't really point at it, because obviously it disappears. But, the red... Where the Chinese flag is in this image above the photograph of the plane, used to be where the nationalist Chinese flag would be. And, I should say Republic of China, because this flag is currently the People's Republic of China. So, I just wanted to talk briefly about that and just say it's absolutely childish. Absolutely childish that such a thing would be put in to the game. Like, such a thing that to complain about is such a triviality. That's like the United States today, and I had thought about this as like, well, can I relate to this in my own terms and say, hey, what would I say in this perspective if I was like in their shoes? And I can't see any argument for them. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely childish. It's like thinking of the United States when they had the Civil War, where we had the Union, that was the unified states that were still with the original Constitution, and then you had the Confederacy, who adopted the flag that, if you don't know what it looks like, just look it up. The United States, or the Confederate States of America flag. Although they never really had a distinct flag. It's just kind of a flag that was really generic from Virginia. And I'm not going to dwell on the history on that. You can look that up yourself. But the thing is, there's nothing in the United States that says we don't recognize that flag for what it was. In games, like Civil War games, we don't, like, put an American flag over the Confederacy flag. We don't do that. We don't relabel their flag and say, no, they never existed. Or they don't exist. It's such a childish thing. And, in the future might take a hit for this, but it's like a thing like, hey, China, at least the United States was able to beat the Confederacy. You guys failed to frickin' beat Taiwan. Yeah, they were a major power before and all that, but you failed to finish the job. And it's just so childish that you can't even recognize the flag. It's so childish. So childish. I just don't know what to say. It actually, I can't see China being a world power if they just do stuff like that. If they're too childish to recognize a country that they can't beat. It's actually a joke. It's basically all I have to say. It's so stupid. And I hope in a future iteration of this game, in a patch later down the road, they're gonna step in and say, you know what, Gaijin's like, I get what you guys wanted. You're on the boat with us now, but we're gonna step back to the historical needs, because it's the most unhistorical thing in this game. The fact that they step in and say, you know what, don't give them their flag. they're really just delusional people that are supposed to be a part of the PROC. That's such a childish thing. Such a childish thing, I swear. I hope they fix it, honestly, Gaijin. You have my 100% support in changing the flag back to the ROC flag. I expect to see it done. It is so stupid that a bunch of childish people across the world... The only reason they had to do it was because they wanted to cater to it, and the Chinese said that they weren't going to play the game if it was the ROC flag. It had to be the PROC flag. It's so stupid. I hope they frickin' fix that. So, that's my thoughts on that. I'm going to end it here. Gotta frickin' get this video cut, wrapped, moved on. Yeah, back to the video, I guess. Because I think I need to really give good mention to the positives that they really did this patch. And I can sum it up with, what was it? There were 3 things I was going to say. The 3 S's is what I was going to summarize it with. But, yeah, I'm trying to think what else there is besides what I'm going to talk about. They did good with the, or sorry, there was the teleporting glitch, there was the whole system issue with regards, I think the battle ratings need to be decompressed. I think we need to see, I forget what the other one was. Fix the teleporting, that's for sure. I'll reiterate that as many times as I want. Fix teleporting, fix the optical thing, because the optics need to be figured out. There needs to be a more convenient way of basically organizing that stuff. But yeah, let's talk about the 3 major positives that they really made moves on this patch. And I think the 3 S's is probably what this patch should have been called. I mean, it's not really catchy, but it really makes sense when you think about it. And it's speed, sight, and sound. Speed being the aircraft obviously getting faster and all that. The performance of these vehicles just going up dramatically. We're seeing faster helicopters. We're seeing way faster aircraft. Sound was absolutely incredible this patch. For all the glitches it might have and all that, the overall final product, like seeing the potential and the capability of it, it really refreshes the gameplay when it comes to especially high tier or, you know, just aircraft battles. I have had so much fun, and it is so rejuvenating to hear a different sound. Someone hitting the ground in a plane is one of the most satisfying sounds you can hear in this game. And then talking about sight with the thermal optics and all that, and I've even seen my FPS. I would say my FPS has been fluctuating lately, and it's really kind of irritating to basically see the FPS fluctuating with regards to how my computer's performing and all that. And I've been, you know, fixing stuff on my graphics and all that to make sure it's good, you know, good visuals, but also it matches the performance that's acceptable. And I've been doing that quite well and all that, but I can see a comparative drop in FPS from the last patch to this patch. Yeah, that's basically all I can say. Obviously the sights being thermal sights and night vision. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Really, it's been an exciting thing and all that. I really hope to talk more about the other vehicles in the game. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be talked about as of late. But yeah, it's just a lot of stuff happened in this patch, and I thought it was interesting that they did it in only 2 weeks. Or sorry, not 2 weeks, but 2 dev servers. I kind of feel like that was a little, I don't know, a little rushed, in my opinion. I thought it was a little bit irritating. Some people were saying that they wanted to do the update as fast as they did because of the date, which it came out on 9/11, you know, or 11/9, depending on where you live in the world. But it's a little interesting that they chose to do that. It's kind of a, that's interesting kind of thing. But anyways, that's all I've got really for the patch 1.91 assessment. A patch that really has moved the game forward, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to be moved forward still, that needs to be addressed and handled to basically keep this game from going to unplayable. It's playable and it has its fun moments, but there's a very good line that you can cross when you don't meet the issues in the game. But yep, that's basically all I've got for patch 1.91. Thanks for listening to the video, however long it is. Hopefully it's not terribly long. And I hope to see you guys later. Have a good one.